Hi, my name is Emma Hogan and I'm a coloured pencil artist, and today I thought I'd share with you why I think Polychromos are hands down the best pencil to buy if you're a beginner or even if you are a fully fledged artist such as Alan Woollett, who created this book. He is one of my favourite coloured pencil artists and he uses mainly Polychromos in his work. I'm not even sure that he uses any other wax pencils. I think he just uses Polychromos, which are oil-based pencil. So I thought I'd share that quickly because he's amazing. Check him out on Instagram, Alan Woollett. Okay, so the reason I think these are hands down the best pencils for a beginner to use, and I wish I'd learnt this from the very beginning before I went gung-ho watching loads of YouTube videos and going out buying every single colour out there in hopes that my art will get better, when it's more about having light and dark in your work than having a million coloured pencils. So this chart was made only using 12 pencils. These are Faber-Castell box of 12 that you get, generic ones. And you can see here the amount of colours that was made from just those 12 pencils, just overlapping. So you've got cadmium yellow and then you've got the white. The white goes down here first and you put these colours over the top and these will create your different colours. So you keep going, so on and so forth, cadmium yellow all the way down here, and then cadmium yellow, dark cadmium orange, and you just overlap them. And you can see how translucent they are. You can see the colours show through, which gives them that vibrancy that I don't think a lot of wax pencils do. They start out in this country, I'm in Canada at the moment, so they're $2.99 each. So they're quite cheap for a coloured pencil, whereas I'd say, you know, something like this, they're about $5-6, these Derwent Lightfast. And if you're starting out, I would highly recommend that you either buy, like I did first of all here, buy a pack of 12 and do a colour chart to get to learn your colours. You don't need all the colours under the rainbow to complete really beautiful pieces of work, which is something that has taken me a long time to learn. It's all about light and dark, where your shadows are, making the shadows dark as possible and your lights as bright as possible, not using, you can complete a picture with a handful of pencils and it could look much better than someone who's used 100 pencils. The old masters hardly had any paints and they used what they had, and their art is out of this world. So it's not about the colours, it's more about your lights and darks. So I just wanted to get that in there. But anyway, I would buy open stock from stores, which is just buying one pencil, two pencils at a time. So maybe get a small set like this, and then if you want to expand, their range goes up to 120. Go to your local art shop and pick up what you think you would use. Lots of these colours, I would say half of these colours here I don't even use here. I'd say this page here with all the greys, I use most of them, obviously not the silver. I didn't even buy silver. I've got gold, but I don't even use that. I would say that I mainly use the warm greys, some of the cold greys, obviously burnt umber and burnt sienna I use. But you would hardly use any of these. It's not worth going out and buying 120 tin. Because I know what it's like when you first start doing a new project or whatever, or changing your medium. You want to get everything that you need. And sometimes going slow is the best way. So I definitely think that you should just buy from open stock. So they are a oil-based pencil, which makes them perfect for beginners because they keep their points really well. They don't snap. You can sharpen them and they hold their point for quite a while, whereas something like Prismacolor snaps quite easily, or the wax pencils, they break quite easily as well. So you can't get such a fine detail with the wax pencils. Something like this I would use as a base layer. If you were to invest in luminance pencils, I would start with these, and then I would build up with the Polychromos. But like I said, this guy here, Alan Woollett, I think he doesn't even use any wax-based pencils, and his art is second to none. So on the pencils, they have a Lightfast rating, which are these little stars here, if you can see that. Most of them are 3 stars, meaning that they last for over 100 years when you've completed something. If it's in normal daylight, then it should last over 100 years plus. So that's what those little stars mean. Another reason why these pencils are really good for beginners is because they're quite forgiving. Say if I used like a wax pencil and I lay this down, and I'm in beginner, so I'm going to go in quite hard with it. There's so much pigment down that you're going to have a job to build up the layers on that. But with Polychromos, because they're a harder pencil, they don't lay down as much as a wax pencil does. So if you do it like that, if you go in like, because you're new and you go in gung-ho, then you've already gone into the tooth of the paper and lost a lot of it. Whereas with the Polychromos, it's quite translucent, so you can go over the top of it quite nicely without worrying about losing the tooth of your paper so much. You can get quite a lot of layers in. So if I was to go back over with this one, the same as I did with that one, you see how much darker that is? It just allows you to build up your colours without losing so much of the tooth of the paper quite, as quick. Because when you're a learner, when you're learning to use coloured pencils, it can be quite tricky, especially if you use the wrong colour. You could go back in over it with another colour, and it's not so bad because they're quite translucent. It shows through, like as you can see here, you can see that they glow. When you see this colour here, you see it glows through here as well. They have this aura, this glow to them, which the wax pencils don't, I think, because they blend together really easily and they smoosh together more because they're waxy. You don't get this kind of glow and this, forgivingness. It's not even a word, I don't think, forgivingness. But you see what I mean? They are more forgiving, a pencil. And if I was to invest in any pencil, I would start with the Polychromos. So I've compiled the pencils that I most use. These are all quite natural colours. They used mainly for wildlife art. So whether they're good for the human form or portraits or all that kind of thing, I wouldn't know. These are what I mainly use for doing birds and stuff like that, like stags and foxes and all the rest of it. So I thought I'd just share with you the pencils I use the most, so that if you wanted to buy from open stock, just buying pencils separately for the couple of dollars each or pounds or whatever, then this would be the way to go, instead of buying a full tin of 120 that you probably wouldn't even use half of them. So I'll just quickly go through the ones that I've got. So this one is Dark Sepia 175. This is probably my most used pencil instead of the black, so I would use this first, and if I wanted to go darker, then I would go in with the black. Standard White. ivory, cream, you've got two kind of light skin tones, I suppose. Beige red, that number is 132 because it used to be called something else. And then cinnamon, brown ochre, Naples, dark Naples ochre, Naples yellow, sanguine, burnt ochre, terracotta, red violet, India red, burnt sienna, dark cadmium yellow, burnt sienna, cadmium orange. With the greys, so you've got your cold greys and you've got your warm greys. So I was quite confused when I started doing coloured pencils at the start, which should I use for which areas. So just with, I would say the easiest way is to use your warm greys for something that's warmer or in the sunlight or highlighted or whatever you. And then your colder greys in shadows, in darker areas, or for cooler areas. So with the cold and the cold and the warm greys, you've got a set that goes from 1 right up to 6. So I would buy all of those. So cold grey 1 to 6, warm grey 1 to 6 on those. And you got your sorry, that's the warm grey 6. Sorry, Payne's grey, Van Dyke brown, walnut brown. Hopefully they'll be above the screen here, all the colours. I've had a bit of trouble editing, so I'll put them up there and hopefully it'll be there. Nougat, however you want to pronounce that. Beaster, raw umber, burnt umber. Done those two already, haven't I? Getting confused now. Yep, done those two. It's because they moved. Okay, and the nice purple violet. Great for adding vibrancy to darker animals. Caput mortuum, and then you've got your Caput mortuum violet, so that's more of a purpley colour. Again, the same sort of thing, adds some vibrant purple to your drawings. Dark cadmium orange. And the two blues that I use are sky blue for eyes and stuff like that, and cobalt blue. And then dark indigo, which I do mix a lot with dark sepia to make a nice darker black that's a bit more vibrant than if you just go in with black. And then you've got your greens. These are the 4 greens that I use the most. So we've got green gold, permanent olive green, green olive, sorry, and then earth green, and the last one is olive green yellowish. So these are all the pencils that I use on a regular basis. I very rarely buy anything else. So if you wanted to just use Polychromos and you're worried because you want to use a slice tool, you want to get some, it's like flick out some whiskers or some stray hairs and that kind of thing. When I use Polychromos, I find it difficult to use the scrape tool with Polychromos. So if I show you an example of just laying down the black Polychromos on its own so you can see, let me just zoom in, sorry. Might have to zoom in a bit more. Okay, so with the black, it's just like that. And you use your scrape tool, it's not going to work very well. So you can see it's not scraping off anything. If you're using drafting film, that probably would come off, but I'm not. I'm using standard Fabriano Artistico. But if you buy Illuminance or any waxy based pencil, this is buff titanium, lay that one down first. So these tend to work well with the scrape tool when you've put a waxy layer down first. So if you build up your layers, even if you just use this buff titanium underneath and then put your black over the top, then use your scrape tool. It scrapes away better. Well, it scrapes away compared to if you just did it without it. So that's one tip. If you want to use a scrape tool with Polychromos, that's the best way. If you could just get yourself 5 of these a handful of them, and have them as base colors, and then just use your Polychromos over the top, and you should be good to use your slice tool, no problems. But I hope that helps